the way tire buying should be.
Well, we turn our attention to FR Americas, and we're looking at the man who is the man of the day so far, Jordan Missick, a good commentator and a dash good racer. He proved that in race one by winning. And I'm joined by John Phippen once again. And John, I just mentioned the fact that the FR Regional Championship may be a young series, but it's gaining ground quickly, and we're starting to develop the stars, the whole intention of this championship.
Absolutely right. It's the second step on the five-step ladder from karting all the way up to the top step of the ladder in the FIA ranks, and that is, of course, the Formula One World Championship. We started our Formula Regional Americas Championship in 2018, was our first year of competition, and we've only got one driver in our field that has competed in two of those 3 years, and that is Logan Cuson, who finished 12th in the 2019 championship and finished 8th in the championship a year ago in 2020. 9 of our 13 drivers are new to the series this year, and they cover 6 states and 6 countries. So it's a very international field. You would think with the name Formula Regional Americas that it would be limited to North American drivers. Not the case. Both the Formula 4 U.S. Championship and our championship are open to all comers, and we have a very international field. But it was really designed for these drivers to work their way up through the FIA ladder and have an opportunity to race in Europe.
And that's an important factor you mentioned, that it's open to all comers, because a part of this is Americans can't gauge where they are on the world stage, and this is an international series. Certainly when you start to get into FIA F3, which is an international series but the same car, if you want to be the next Logan Sargent, the next Jack Crawford, and I'm talking about the Americans, Juan Manuel Correa, or Ryan Yardley from New Zealand, you've got to leave your own country and race somewhere else to see just how good, if you're coming from a small country like New Zealand, you are. But for the Americans, a bigger country, perhaps with more money and more potential, if you're from Mexico, if you're from Canada, if you're from the rest of the world, we want good talent here, like Josh Carr from Australia, for example, because we want to see where you need to know. It's no good winning the American Championship and then suddenly going international racing and realizing actually that was easy. So there's a reason for wanting to have other people here.
Yeah, exactly right. And you know, the American racing scene has always been sort of parochial, for want of a better term. You know, the pinnacle of open wheel racing in this country, you know, has always been thought of as IndyCar, and that's what a lot of folks aspire to, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. The IndyCar series is a very international series as well, but the FIA, which sanctions Formula One and racing all over the world, of course, really is a different draw, and you know, the success of Formula One in this country, with its new home down at Circuit of the Americas, your home track, of course, has really begun to blossom, and Formula One is really beginning to get a toehold here in North America that it hasn't had for years. You know, Formula One racers were not really household names as they are all around the world, except in North America, and that is gradually changing. So it's great to have the opportunity for these drivers to work in the FIA system and finally have an opportunity and a direct path to get to the top levels in Europe.
It's interesting you describe it as an American as parochial, because as a European, I always look at this as being not a closed shop, but because it's so saturated with motorsport of its own kind, and
exactly.
Because America is such a vast, wealthy country, that to break into America as a foreigner, and I'm talking about racing, but also they say the same in music, make it in America. You know, we talk about the British invasion. Yeah, how many are there? The Rolling Stones, the Beatles. But after that, you know, but my point is, coming to America, being established in America is a very hard thing for a sportsman to do.
Sure.
Because it's a saturated world. You've got enough here and enough talent here.
Exactly.
You don't need foreign talent. So yes, someone like Josh Carr does stand out because the Australians know, boy, he's made it in America. He's not just made it in Australia.
Yeah. It's a good benchmark, I think. And you know, but by the same token, as an American, you know, I'm jazzed about young men like Kyle Kirkwood. You know, the Floridian, on the cusp the Indy Lights Championship. He has swept all before him in every open wheel series that he has taken part in. He was the champion of the F4 US Series, of course, but also...
And he did it by winning like pretty much most of the races he ever entered.
Exactly right. And then he stepped up.
His database is like 75% win rate.
Exactly. He stepped up into the Formula Regional America Series, won that on the trot at his first opportunity, and then because that predated the new scholarship that Honda has put together for the winner of the Formula Regional Americas Championship to race in the Japanese Super Formula Championship in 2022. That was before Kyle's time. So he, made the lateral move over to the road to Indy, swept everyone before him in USF 2000, did the same in Indy Pro 2000, and he is about to win, if he does, and our fingers are crossed for him, he's about to win his sixth championship on the trot from one to the other without having to take an off season, if you will. But let's turn our attention to the race that's about to happen here. This is race number 2 of the weekend for the Formula Regional America drivers. We have 13 cars on the starting grid, and there's been a little shuffle in the starting grid based on a penalty, sadly, that was assessed to Joshua Carr because that first turn incident that basically knocked Josh back out of the race was judged to be his fault. He made contact with Ernie Francis Jr. and created a problem for him, and so the stewards have reviewed the footage of that incident and have penalized Josh 5 starting positions from where he would have started. So he would have started on the front row, but he'll be starting in row 3 because of that penalty. But let's introduce the... Starting alone in row 7 will be the 29 of Nick Persing from Morgan Hill, California for Velocity Racing Development. He did not get a time in the race because his transponder malfunctioned, so he'll have to start in the 7th row by himself. Kevin Jansen making his first start with us with a locally based team, the Wisco team. Kevin in from Boca Raton, Florida in that number 24 car with the Wisco racing team, making his first start with us here this weekend. Alongside him in row 6 is the 99 of Logan Cuson, who had a troubled start to the weekend as he spun off during the formation lap and never really recovered, finished some laps down, so he'll start in 11th spot. Now into the top 10 in row 5 on the outside, the Frenchman Baptiste Berthelot from Reims, France for TJ Speed Motorsport. He is in car number 17. Next to him, Varun Choksi, the man who is currently 4th in the championship points out of Alpharetta, Georgia, sponsored by ADR and Melon Seed. Varun, also a TJ Speed Motorsports driver. In row number 4 on the outside is the 98 of Ernie Francis Jr. from Southwest Ranches, Florida for Future Star Racing, based by the sponsored as well, should we say, by the Wings and Wheels Foundation. Next to him, Arias Dukmajian from Merritt Island, Florida, stepping into the 11 car for Velocity Racing Development. You talked to Hunter Yaney down on the grid. He would normally be in that car, but Hunter making the transition to the European racing and should be at Sochi this weekend, but as he said, had a family commitment that made it impossible for him to do that, so they gave Arias the drive in his car here this weekend. Josh Carr will start 6th. He is 2nd in the points championship, albeit almost an insurmountable distance back. Sydney, Australia for Crosslink Coatings and the Crosslink competition team. Next to him is Ryan Yardley, the New Zealander who did a fantastic job this weekend. Ryan qualifies 5th for this race from Christchurch, New Zealand. Kiwi Motorsport and Helmet Health sponsoring him. Moving forward into row number 4, another debutant here from the Kiwi Motorsport stable, Cooper Becklin in the number 91 car out of West Lynn, Oregon. Cooper had a couple starts with us in the F4 Championship a year ago, but has been moved up into the FR Championship here at VIR. He is starting in the 3rd spot. Car number 14 is Dylan Tavella out of Massapequa, New York for Crosslink Coatings and Crosslink Competition. The series points leader and almost champion, Kiffin Simpson in the number 21 will start 2nd. Out of the Grand Cayman Islands, Simpson Race Products, GoPro, and Spy Optics sponsor his machine for the TJ Speed Motorsports stable. And your pole sitter, the winner finally of a race in this series in this morning's first round, Jordan Missig in the number 48 car out of Shanahan, Illinois, sponsored by the Autobahn Country Club. Jordan will start on the pole, and if he gets the kind of start he got this morning, he may disappear into the sunset. But there are some drivers cars right behind him, Kiffin Simpson for one, who would like nothing more than to take over that top spot. The points battle, there are 61 points now between Josh Carr and Kiffin Simpson. That's over 2 races worth. It's going to be a tall order for Josh to win this championship. Jordan Messig is in third, but he's a further almost 60 points back. And so those 3 are the only drivers who are still mathematically in the hunt for the championship with 5 races left to go, including the one we're just about 5 minutes, the time of this race. It is a timed race, not a lap count race, as the light sequence is just now about to begin. Again, you'll hear these Honda turbocharged motors come up on the rev limiters as the drivers wait for all the lights to go out. There's 5 lights, and we're away. And a good start once again for Jordan Messig. Dylan Tavella jumps right in behind Kiffin Simpson, who tries to keep in behind him as they make the run down to the horseshoe. Look at this gaggle of cars a little further back, 4 wide as they head into the horseshoe right now. As they make their way through, it looks like Jordan Messig has been able to maintain the lead with Kiffin Simpson now right behind him, and then the car of Dylan Tavella in that 3rd spot as they work their way through NASCAR and head toward the left hook.
My estimate is that Josh Carr will push as hard as he's ever pushed because he knows it's make or break for this championship in this race alone.
Yeah.
So he's got to get something out of it.
He has to win, basically. He has to win out and hope for some bad luck from Kiffin Simpson if he has any chance for the championship. So you can see him back there in about 6th or 7th spot. He's just biding his time on these opening laps, getting tires up to temperature as these drivers beginning to work their way through the wonderfully flowing climbing S's here at VIR. As Jordan Messig told us, it is such a joy to drive with these cars. They have so much downforce that they can just whip their way through that section of track flat on the throttle. As we can see Josh Carr up there chasing behind, I believe that's Varun Choksi just in front of him, but we'll sort it out as they come around to complete.
Yeah, good clean start, exactly what we wanted, and we want as little safety as possible in terms of little safety car as possible, as we want to give these guys a good run of good 30-minute racing.
There's Ryan Yardley, the New Zealander, who was so dominant in this morning's race, finishing on the podium, doing a great job to come home in 3rd spot, but was in the lead battle virtually the entire race long. Coming under our commentary position and across the line, Jordan Messig, your leader. Kiffin Simpson in 2nd, Ryan Yardley in 3rd, Arias Dukmajian in the 4th spot, Ernie Francis Jr. in 5th, Dylan Tavella in 6th, Varun Choksi and Josh Carr 7th and 8th, Logan Cuson and Baptiste Berthelot rounding out the top 10 after just a single racing lap.
I talked to Ryan Yardley between races, and I said, a year and a half off racing, what was the hardest part? And he said, my shoulders. He said, I can work out and stay fit, but it's one of those muscles that you don't really work that hard. And he said, suddenly he got out of the car and he said, these are physical cars. And he said, my shoulders just hurt like hell.
I can imagine. The battle between Dukmajian and Ernie Francis Jr. is a good one. We can see that just behind us. Dukmajian in the 11, Ernie Francis in the 98. As they're right in our shot. Great job by our camera crew here. As Ernie is all over the back of Dukmajian looking for that 4th spot. And a little bit of a gap back to Dylan Tavella, Varun Choksi, and Josh Carr, all running in close formation as they come into the Oak Tree Bend on race lap number 2. Just about now is the time when these Hankook tires are pretty much fully up to temperature and the drivers can really begin to push. But as we talked about in the earlier race, with these FR cars, because they have so much more aerodynamics than their F4 counterparts, it's really tough to follow close. Ernie is making his move now.
He is.
As he's ducked alongside Arias Dukmajian in the run down toward the roller coaster, one of the best passing opportunities on the racetrack. Status quo in front of them, but they've sorted it out. I think Ernie has taken over that 4th spot.
Nicely done, Ernie Francis Jr. then. His first season of single-seaters ever. He's done a little bit of karting, but really he is a stock car guy and has been in Trans Am to 7 titles, I may add. But this is all new to him, and look how well he's adapting.
He just set the fastest lap of the race after making that pass. So Ernie Francis Jr., he's going to catch up with these top 3 as Yardley thinks about a pass on Kiffin Simpson as he goes around the outside at the horseshoe. Can't quite make it stick, but he might have an opportunity here into NASCAR. Kiffin Simpson, again, as we talked about earlier, Jonathan, obviously is because he's got such a big points lead, he needs to just be careful. He needs to finish the races, score as many points as possible. He doesn't need to do anything stupid and, stick his nose where it doesn't belong. So Kiffin is going to be driving, let's say, conservatively, but obviously he would love to win another race. He's already got 5 wins to his credit. He'd love to get a 6th one before this weekend is out.
Yeah, and of course, Ryan Yardley is effectively a teammate to Josh Carr, so he is trying to gun for Kiffin Simpson and try and keep him behind him, but he's not got past him yet, but that's certainly in his mind. But now Ernie comes into the game, so it's the last thing that Kiffin Simpson needs is 2 hot shoes, one who's already had a win and the other who's just coming into the series but is serious about his business.
Exactly, and this battle at the front has begun to close up as we've got 2, 4, 6, 8 cars all nose to tail. In the race earlier this morning, Jordan Missick was able to get away and just disappear into the sun. Case as Kiffin Simpson is challenging him for the lead in the run down the back straightaway, heading toward the roller coaster here. So Jordan Missick is not having as easy a go of it as he had this morning, where he was out in front by as much as 7 seconds at one point.
Yeah, this is a great race, and Ernie's closing in on Yardley as well. But you're right, Missick, after that first race where it was plain sailing, is now under massive pressure as they head down past our commentary position again.
Once again, it is Jordan Missick out in front. Simpson, Yardley, Francis, and Duke-Majan, your top 5. Dylan Tavella, a bit resurgent as he's closed in on the back of Duke-Majan, only about a half a second back. Varun Choksi and then Josh Carr. Josh has not found his way around the DJ Speed Motorsport driver Choksi to get up into 7th spot. So once again, he's got his work cut out for him if he's going to have any chance of taking the championship away from Kiffin Simpson.
Tight as you like, very close
man,
indeed.
Yeah.
Yardley under pressure, somebody out.
Yeah, somebody slow and off the pace.
He's got back going again.
Yeah, he has. I think he may have dropped a wheel off there out of NASCAR. We see a lot of cars go wide there at that NASCAR bend and drop some wheels off in the grass, and it takes a while to get that momentum back up. No change in the top 4. There's Ernie Francis at the back of that battle, and a little gap back to Duke-Majan with Dylan Tavella just behind him. There's our man second in the points, Joshua Carr, in that number 9, the recognizable green livery.
But I'll tell you what, he's got time to get on pace with this, boys,
Look at
especially
this.
as they fight. Look at this, 3 wide down the back straight.
Ernie Francis, Ryan Yardley, and Kiffin Simpson going 3 wide. Jordan Missick smiling because as those guys are battling one another, that gives him the clear track to drive away just a little bit.
But out of that, Ernie Francis Jr. is up to 2nd.
Absolutely right. Ernie is not afraid to stick his nose in there as he knows how to drive a car fast if he has to. So Ernie Francis Jr. looking perhaps for his 2nd win on the season in his first year of open wheel racing. I wouldn't count him out.
Well, there's an irony because there's a young Carter that's racing in Trans Am who got literally the unofficial lap record in TA2 this morning, just 15 years of age, so following in the footsteps of Ernie Francis Jr. as a potential either Trans Am driver or single-seater driver, given he's a kart expert. Yeah, it's interesting what you can find at VIR of a day.
That car that was off on the outside of turn number 3 was Varun Choksi in the 19 cars. He's fallen back to 10th position. Cooper Becklin, another driver making his first start in the Formula Regional Americas car in the 91 for Helmut House and Kiwi competition, up to 9th position and just set the fastest lap of the race. So Cooper Becklin, a driver out of West Lynn, Oregon, making his first start in the series and showing he's got good pace. Josh Carr now has caught up to the back of this battle with Dylan Tavella. That's his teammate right in front of him. I don't know if there'll be any team orders on the radio, but Dylan might be obliged. Oh, and we've got a spinner.
Oh, big time.
And that is Arias Duke-Majan, who has gone around in the 11 car, did some damage to the front wing. I saw some carbon fiber split off of that car as he ducked that nose.
I think you'll have stalled that, don't you?
Yeah, I have a feeling that car may be high-centered in the grass, and he will not be able to get going again in that safety car if he's unable to get that car rolling. At the moment, we're still green. I'm listening to race control in one ear, and they're discussing their plan, but they're giving him an opportunity to get that car rolling again. If he can get it pointed back the right direction, we might be able to avoid a safety car here. Meanwhile, a 2-car battle at the front. Missick and Ernie Francis Jr. Ryan Yardley, the New Zealander, right behind them in 3rd, then Kiffin Simpson in 4th. There it is. He got it going again. Good job to Arias Dukmajian to get that car re-rolling, but he's got a damaged front wing for sure, so he'll have to be a little circumspect as he works his way around the rest of this race. Getting a replay of it here, just carried a little too much speed through the climbing S's. Nobody caused that. It got away from him on his own. A good bit of defensive driving there from the cars just behind him to avoid a further incident. So that's put paid to the hopes of Arias Dukmajian for a top finish. But a great camera shot here, looking at the Michelin bridge just under the drive-over bridge, just under the snake part of the racetrack. There's Jordan Missing, there's Ernie Francis, there's Yardley right behind him, and Kiffin Simpson, the points leader. Josh Carr now up to 5th position as he was able to take advantage of that miscue by Arias Dukmajian to get around his teammate Dylan Tavella. He's a bit further back. He's about 2 seconds behind this battle that we're watching. So Josh Carr will have to pedal quickly to catch up to the back of those. But yeah, a little bit of bobble by Jordan Missing, just as it looked like he was going to try to get away. And look how much Ernie Francis is getting closer and closer and closer at the top end of the straightaway.
The thing about this is Ernie's a winner here at Virginia in Trans Am. He knows this track so well. So that side of it, the actual strategy and where to go fast and where to look for an overtake and where to put pressure on, is in his wheelhouse from Trans Am, which is probably a lot harder in some ways than these single-seater cars. So he is absolutely in his element here, race-wise.
Yeah, it's really interesting. When they raced together at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, my home track, the lap time of these cars and the Trans Am cars was virtually identical at Mid-Ohio. They obviously make their speed in very different ways.
Yeah.
The Trans Am car with 850 horsepower jumping off the corners with all the traction that they generate, but obviously without all the wings and the downforce, they can't take the corners as quickly. So they make speed in entirely different ways. And I think about Ernie having to recalibrate himself on the same race weekend from this high downforce car flowing through the turns, getting back into his big ground-pounding Trans Am car with a very different dynamic. That's got to be a tough job for him to decide, hey, which car am I in here and how do I drive it?
Yeah, the braking alone compared to his Trans Am, obviously, which is soft. Oh, who's that?
Somebody off. I think that's at the left.
It's a VRD car.
Yeah, and I think it might be Dukmajian again.
Yeah.
No, it's the 29 car of Nick Pershing who is off. A teammate to Arias Dukmajian. Nick Pershing was lapping in the 13th spot, but he has gone off right there at the left hook, I believe.
Now that should probably bring out the safety car then if it's at left hook.
Turn 11. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's just at the exit of the Oak Tree Bend, but still in a place where if he can't get started, he did back into the tire barrier. I could see that the rear wing was deranged, but he might be able to get that car refired and avoid a safety car here. As we go back to the front, Jordan Missing still holding on to the lead. Ernie Francis piling on the pressure. Ryan Yardley, the New Zealander, right behind him. Then Kiffin Simpson. Josh Carr trying to catch up with this battle, just set the fastest lap of the race. You can see him just a little further back in this great drone shot that we've got here. Kudos to the Green Light crew for providing these beautiful images. This drone shot adds so much, as you were saying, Jonathan.
Perspective,
it's so much better perspective as you can see the sort of bird's eye view.
Well, especially coming into Horseshoe where we're looking now, because you get to see who's braking well, who's looking for an overtake, and where they're going to make it, which you can't always see from ground level.
Yeah, look at Josh Carr making up ground in big chunks here, but it looks like we are going to go to the safety car. Yeah. These drivers have been alerted of that. They've got a yellow light on their dashboard that the race director can click on remotely so that they know immediately when a yellow flag has been called, and that neutralizes the race. There's no more passing. They know to reduce to basically safety car speed and to back up one against the other. And they'll be picked up by Stefan Bistricki, who is driving the safety car this weekend. James Rogerson, our normal safety car driver. There's Stefan catching up to the front of the field. Our normal safety car driver is up at Indianapolis competing in the runoffs next weekend. And so he safety car driving chores over to Stefan this weekend. But Stefan, a very accomplished pilot on his own right, will have no trouble getting the job done.
That's
again,
a mess.
it's for Nick Pershing, and that is at the Oak Tree Bend. As you can see, he carried a little too much speed through the first part of that right-hander and backed it into the tire barrier, unable to get it refired, and that's why we're going to need to rely on the safety crew. We've still got 20 minutes remaining in this race, plenty of time. Jordan Missig, your leader, Ernie Francis Jr. in second, Ryan Yardley in third, Kiffin Simpson fourth, Josh Carr into the fifth spot. There's a problem for Dylan Tavella in the 14 as he is into the pit lane, and the crew with the engine cowling off and with towels, that usually means there's an oil leak or something under that rear engine cowling. So they're having a look to see what it is, but sadly that's going to put paid to the effort of Dylan Tavella, coming off a pretty good finish in second spot, one of his best finishes of the season. He does have a win already this year at Road America, but his second place finish in this morning's race, his best finish in some time. But looks like that's not going to be repeated, as there is an issue with that power plant that they're working to try to get solved. So that's a tough break for Dylan Tavella, currently being shown in 12th.
Well, I know one man who's a good restarter, and that's Josh Carr, second in the championship. And again, I keep saying it, but if he's got to take advantage of the opportunity in front of him, because he's running out of opportunities, given that he gave one away this morning. There he is in the number 9, and he needs this restart. It looks as though Tavella's back out there again. So that's good news.
Yeah, perhaps they discovered a leak of some kind, got it solved, and put the engine cowling back on, so Dylan will be able to catch back up, and he's still on the lead lap as of this moment, so he'll be able to catch up to the back of the field and stay at the back of the lead lap on the restart. So that's a good bit of work by the crew there of the number 14 car, the Crosslink competition crew. So we were doing a rundown. Logan Cuson currently running in the 6th spot, a better race today than he had in the early race this morning, where he had a problem on the formation lap and never really recovered. Cooper Becklin up to 7th, a good run for the Oregon native. Varun Choksi, after that off-course excursion at NASCAR a few laps ago, running in 8th currently. Baptiste Berthelot, the driver out of Reims, France, in 9th. And Arias Dukmajian, after his spin, maintains a position in 10th, still in the points. As we can see, Dylan Tavella working quickly to catch back up to the back of the field. As now that we see the timing and scoring has updated, it looks like Tavella is a lap down. So I thought he had maintained his position on the lead lap, but apparently that is not the case after timing is updated. So Dylan will be a lap down to the rest of the field. Nick Pershing is some 3 laps down, as he's the car that brought out this safety car with his incident there at the Oak Tree Bend. So with a little hope, they'll get that car recovered and we'll be able to get back underway here quickly.
Let's take a look at what happened, John, because obviously not an easy off, and he just slid into the barriers, basically.
A little too much speed into that turn, and the back end stepped out on him, and once all 4 wheels are off the pavement, you're pretty much a passenger, and he backed into the tire barrier there at Oak Tree. Just passing the halfway point, so still lots of racing left to go.
Been a good weekend for Missig, but he's going to have his work cut out, because I know Ernie Francis Jr. is hot on the trot for a win here at VIR, and he's going to qualify in TA straight after this, so he's going to jump straight out of the car. He's got a bit of a respite while we get the IGT race 2 on, so he'll have half an hour to kind of cool down, but then he's back out again.
Yeah, exactly right. And like I say, jumping from his single-seater into his Trans Am car. Yeah, that'll be
a Honda Civic engine to an 850 plus brake horsepower
fire-breathing V8.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right.
Nuts.
How different can they be? So waiting on any word from race control that we will continue this. It looks like the lights are still on the safety car. Normally they would click them off about now, and we can see the safety vehicles in the front of the shot there still attending to the car of Nick Pershing. So I'm guessing we'll have to go around at least one more time. But fortunately, they can duck into the south pits right here with that car once they get it on the back of the wrecker. So.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, Josh Carr now is behind Kiffin Simpson. So this restart is suddenly turned out to be very, very crucial for both men.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, Josh is obviously got to get in front of Simpson and score as many points as possible and hope for some bad luck, because wins out and Kiffin finishes second in the remaining races, he will easily maintain his championship lead. So Josh needs Kiffin to not score points for about 2 races of the remaining 5 if he's got any chance of closing the gap. And to be fair, Jordan Missick is still mathematically in the hunt, but that he would need some bad luck from both Kiffin and Josh. So Jordan doing what he needs to do. He is leading this race, looking for potentially his 2nd win in a row. So what more can you do if you're behind in the championship is win races and hope for some bad luck for your counterparts behind you.
But the sort of odds, the odds are that at some point somebody like Kiffin is going to have some bad luck. It's sort of how life goes, isn't it? You know, because everybody's pushing hard. There's always a lot of competitive stuff, and it's so easy to get embroiled in a battle you didn't want or make a mistake. So quite simply, we saw it in the last race.
Yeah, of the 13 races we've had so far this season, he has only missed the points once, and that was the first round at Mid-Ohio where he finished outside the top 10. His worst finish this year was 4th, and he's done that twice. He's been on the podium every other race. He's won 5 races, won 5 of the first 6. So, he's certainly shown that he has the consistency, the ability to finish on the podium to earn the championship. I don't want to take anything away from him, but it's still not, that championship is not yet sealed, as we've got cars beginning to pack up just a little bit here. I think working on Ernie Francis is wanting to get a little more temperature into his brakes, I would guess. So slowing down so that he can accelerate and then get on the binders and get the temperature back into the before we get ready to go racing one more time. The 91 car of Cooper Becklin there in our camera shot.
Where's he come from? I mean, I know he's new for our season. Do you know his not background, but more as in what championship he's been done? I don't know a great deal about him at all.
Nor do I. I did as much research as I could find. Some of these drivers, especially those that are
some have nothing, some have fantastic web pages.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of details, and we do as much research as we can find. He started in F4 US. In fact, raced with us at Atlanta. Qualified 7th, finished 11th, was a DNF in race number 2, and he hasn't been with us since. So this is his first start in the Formula Regional Americas Championship. So we don't know a lot about Cooper, but obviously the folks at Crosslink Kiwi have a good eye for talent, and they found something they liked there. So as we're coming through Oak Tree now, I do believe that we don't see any course vehicles in the foreground. So hopefully that will indicate that we should be able to go green this next time by. Lights are out on the safety car, so we are going to get the restart with right now about 13 minutes remaining. As you can see, the countdown clock on the screen, 12 minutes and 45 seconds or so. So plenty of opportunity for some further changes. Of course, as my friend Dorsey Schrader is wont to say, yellows frequently breed yellows. So with the field all packed up, let's hope these drivers mind their P's and Q's. We would expect the most from these drivers. They're more experienced. Most of them have had at least a full season championship racing before joining the Formula Regional Americas Championship. If they don't have F4 experience, they do have to have some commensurate open wheel experience before being eligible to run in this series. So you expect better things out of them, and let's hope that they can keep it clean for the rest of the way. Both the incidents we've had so far have been self-inflicted, so that's always good to see. And we can see Jordan Missick beginning to accelerate as he's going to do his best to get out in front of Ernie Francis Jr. The two of them have built a nice lead over the third place battle with Ryan Yardley and Kiffin Simpson.
Good restart from Ernie. He's going to the outside, going to get challenged surely, and he knows he can go round the outside here and go all the way.
He's right with him still there. He'll have the inside line at NASCAR if he can stay where he is, and he's done it. Ernie Francis has got a nose ahead.
That's track knowledge by Ernie. He's done that in Trans Am, and now he's done it in single seaters. Brilliant stuff.
Absolutely. Ernie Francis at the front, looking for his second win on the season as they tiptoe through that left hook with cold tires, getting back up to speed. Ernie beginning to draw away just a little bit. Jordan Missick then with Ryan Yardley behind him, and Josh Carr has moved up to fourth. He got around Kiffin Simpson.
Yeah, while we were concentrating on the leaders, one of the most important overtakes of the season just happened And that's Josh Carr getting ahead of Kiffin Simpson, the championship leader. It doesn't make a great difference to Kiffin, and he's got to hold his head, but it means a lot to Josh Carr.
Absolutely. Everything he can do to get as far forward as he can and hope for some help. And Josh goes a little wide. That's going to open the door for Kiffin to retake that position as they accelerate down this winding up and down. Not so much. It's a straight shot to the roller coaster, but a very uphill, downhill as we see. I think that may be the car, Baptiste Berthelot. It looks like a problem with the rear suspension. Is that the rear they're looking at?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like something's broken in the rear suspension on Berthelot's car. That's another of the TJ Speed Motorsports stable machines. As we've got Ernie Francis beginning to draw away from this field now, as he got a sniff of the lead, and he's beginning to stretch it.
Important sector this one for Josh Carr, because you were talking about help. He's got Ryan Yardley in front of him, and I'm sure there'll be kind of team orders there to help Josh Carr. But already Ryan Yardley going up to second place. He's past Missick now, and Kiffin Simpson cannot at this point get past Josh Carr. This race is really heating up now. Really good stuff. And Ryan Yardley moving up to second place and in pursuit now of Ernie Francis Jr. What a comeback to racing for the young Christchurch New Zealander.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if Jordan Missick has got a problem of some kind, because he's lost 2 positions in as many laps now as he has given up a couple spots. Let's see if Josh Carr can make quick work of the Newman Wax Racing driver. Kiffin Simpson staying right with him. Ernie Francis getting away, then Yardley. Then Jordan Missick, who won this morning and had the lead here. Look at Josh really make up ground through the climbing S's right on the back.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much as Missick's got a problem as just that the others made some really good moves.
Yeah, exactly right.
Now, Josh has tucked himself up perfectly out of Oak Tree, and now he's got a great chance, but so too has Kiffin. If he gets this wrong, Kiffin will pass.
Right. Ernie's getting away at the front, and Yardley doing the same. So let's see if these two can draft together and catch up to the back of Jordan Missick.
Oh,
yeah, that's
Berthelot's
car with that broken suspension. Yeah, I don't know if he maybe hit one of the curbs or if that may have created the issue. But here's the battle for third with Josh Carr and Jordan Missick and Kiffin Simpson. These 3 drivers are the only ones who are mathematically still in the championship.
Great stuff here at VIR as they cross the strip one more time. 8 minutes to go, just over. Far from over. Oh, safety car is out.
So someone else must be off that we don't see here, as the safety car is picking up the field once again.
Well, that gives Kiffin Simpson another bite at a retake on Josh Carr.
As we see, we have not yet seen Varun Choksi, Kevin Jansen, or Arias Dukmajian come by the stripe.
There's your problem.
Yeah, there's 2 cars involved there. Choksi is one of them. I can tell by the color. But the car in the shade is difficult to see.
Yeah. Looks like one of the they come together quite heavily.
Yeah, I think so. Actually,
they're on top of each other. Oh no, that's just the one car.
Yeah,
sorry,
just the one.
I was completely confused there.
As was I. Yeah, the shadow
looked like
really,
2 cars, didn't it?
It is just one. That is Choksi.
Thank you, Logan. He just changed his iris for us.
Yeah.
But for a moment there, because of the way the sun was, it looked like 2 cars. But no, just the one.
Yeah, Choksi climbing out of the car. Tough break for the TJ Speed Motorsport driver out of. You'll have to settle for no better than 11th in this one. As Nick Pershing with his off there at Oak Tree, and he has not been able to continue. Baptiste Berthelot with that broken rear suspension in 12th. Now Choksi out in 11th. That promotes Dukmajian after his spin, still in the points paying positions in 10th. As Varun has gotten over the barrier and is in a place of safety, but the race director not happy with where that car is and feels the need to get a safety vehicle over there and get that car out of harm's way.
Well, if one man who knows about a restart who's out there is the 7-time Trans Am champion who leads this race, Ernie Francis Jr. Already a winner in single-seaters, but looking for a second and looking to go on a high. We don't know where he's going next year, but we hear there are exciting things afoot for Ernie Francis Jr.
I want to give a shout out to Rob Howden, who has just texted me that Cooper Beckland is a top-level karter on the West Coast.
There you go.
And has raced in the Challenge America's Karting Series in the Rock Cup. Also ran an FE2 car and an F3 car in the Northwest tracks like Portland. He races in the Formula Pro USA Series on the West Coast, running the FR and F3 Series. So thanks, Rob, for that data on Cooper Beckland. So getting a replay of the spin here of the 11th.
Restart,
that Dumajian spun again on the restart. So that's his second spin.
Yeah,
on the
not
day.
been an easy day for the VRD man.
Yeah, exactly. This is his first outing in this car with a whole lot more horsepower than the F4 car that he's accustomed to running. And you can see he stalled the motor, raw fuel from the turbocharger, showing those flames out of the exhaust as he had to get the car refired.
So here's the story. Can Ryan Yardley do something special from second place? Wouldn't it be a story if a New Zealander could win? But Ernie Francis Jr. looking for his second win. And then we've obviously got to watch that battle between the championship contenders Josh Carr and Kiffian Simpson. Kiffian Simpson overtaken by Josh Carr just a few laps ago, given the car had to really rebuild again, having given that got that penalty from the previous race. So he was always going to be up against it, and he's plowed his way back and got his way back into a competitive situation and now possibly a podium. I think, Ernie trying to keep temperature in those tyres, the safety car not going as quick as he would like maybe. And I think he'll do exactly this, which is use his experience to let the safety car get ahead, then sprint up, use the brakes, warm the brakes up again, and keep maintaining some temperature in the tyres. And this is where Ernie comes into his own, because he understands. He's a mechanic in his own right. I mean, you'll be seeing Ernie of a day in Florida working on all of the breathless racing cars, so he understands the mechanics of how cars work. So you've never got to fear with Ernie that he knows how to use the equipment to its greatest advantage.
We understand that if we are able to get the green this time by, it'll be a green-white checker. We'll see the white flag and the green displayed simultaneously, so we'll have one lap to go after this restart. Okay, just hearing from race control, we're not going to be able to get it restarted. So the decision has been to throw the checkers this time by. So Ernie Francis is going to take win number 2 on the season.
Well, it's not the way he would want it, but I'm really pleased for him, because, I mean, this is his rookie year. If he was anybody else, we didn't know him in this series, and didn't know him from Trans Am, we'd be startled at his speed. But we all know Ernie Francis Jr., certainly here in this paddock.
Ryan Yardley, his best finish so far this weekend, as finishing on the podium in race number 1, up 1 spot to second place in race number 2. Assuming that's a pattern, look for Ryan to win race number 3 tomorrow. But that's a good way to finish out this first day of racing. Jordan Missig, after winning this morning, coming home in the 3rd spot for Newman Wonks. That would be his 5th podium on the year.
So what a great way for Ernie Francis Jr. to kind of tail out his single-seater series here at VIR. He's got one more race to go, but he's also got qualifying coming up. But it won't do him any harm to have a couple of slow laps to finish off and cool down a bit, because obviously he's back out in, half an hour's time to qualify his TA car. And don't be surprised if he's not far off on the pole in that.
Yeah, I would think that's most likely going to be the case. So I'm going to make my way down to Victory Circle to interview these top 3 drivers. So, Jonathan, I'll let you bring them around to the checkered flag. And we'll be back with you tomorrow morning, as our first race of the day will be the F4 feature race, number 3. And green flag scheduled at about 9:15. And Jonathan and I will have the call for you on the screen.
Look forward to it. So as they come out of Hog Pen, it's Ernie Francis Jr., the young man from Florida, who's just 23 23 years of age and has already picked up 7 national titles in Trans Am, and now his second victory in single-seaters at the highest level, I may add. These are the guys who are going to be in IndyCar or F1 in the future, and Ernie is absolutely up to the task of taking them on. All of them have more experience than him at this level and in these cars. Most of them have come through the ranks of karting and from Formula 4 and up. Not Ernie Francis Jr. He's a stock car driver all through and through. So to see him doing this at this level is absolutely amazing. The Breathless Racing team can certainly rest well tonight, but they'll have to do it all again tomorrow. And of course, that will also involve his TA race. But that didn't bother Ernie. He's had weekends where he's done all 3 championships, and I include the CBS SRX championship that Ray Everingham and Tony Stewart were involved in, and Ernie did a great job in that, winning a race as well in that one and vying for top 5 in the championship in that one. But here he is, winning in single-seaters. What can this guy do? He can do anything at the moment. So, let's take a look at the highlights then of Race 2 for FR. Away they went from the start. Missing got a good start, but look how everybody attacked him. And it wasn't long before everybody was on song and the tyres were up to temperature. Work to do for Josh Carr, who had to side his way through the back after a penalty after the first race, after being the cause of the collision. Off went the number 11 in big fashion, but luckily Majan saves it. And then Ernie Francis Jr. made a great move. So did Ryan Yardley to get up to second. And what a result it was for both Ernie Francis Jr. and Ryan Yardley. Francis wins his second race. Yardley gets his second podium. Here's the results, and Ernie Francis Jr. with that win over Ryan Yardley. Jordan Missig, who started from pole, takes third. Josh Carr, good job. More importantly, finishing ahead of TJ Speed Motorsports' Kiffin Simpson. And while it doesn't do a great deal, it just takes a few points off Kiffin, but that is as good as Josh could have hoped for. Logan Cousson in 6th place. Becklin, the youngster who you heard about there, who's been racing well in karts on the West Coast, 7th. Dylan Tavella, 8th. Kevin Jansen in 9th, and Arias Dukmajian in 10th position. So, as we wind it down, and they'll come back into the pits, we'll take a short break, and we'll get ready for what should be another cracking race. We hope, anyway. IGT didn't get a good run last time out. They only got to do a couple of laps before a major incident got underway and caused effectively a red flag situation because there was too much fluid down on the ground. But of course, we'll be going into the Parc Fermé with them in a moment. John Fippin's gone to look for them on the interview, and you can see them coming in here now. Now, they've got one more race tomorrow before the final round at COTA, which will be in November. And here they come. So the championship is almost in Kiffian's hand, but I think that result from Carr, depending on what happens tomorrow, could help him keep the championship alive. But what can you say? Ryan Yardley, what a performance by the Kiwi. He's not been in a race car in anger, and certainly not been in a championship in anger for the best part of the COVID time, which is 2 years. He's been working with Crosslink, but not been racing. He is a champion in his own right from 86, the Tin Tops in New Zealand, but has been a single-seater aficionado and has also done the TRS Championship, where he got a scholarship as well. But well done to Ernie Francis Jr. His second win in single-seaters. Well done, Ernie, and well-deserved too. That was a good performance by the 98. He played that one well, and I think it was definitely the overtake of the day. Ran the outside at the horseshoe, and he knew if he kept his foot in, he would make it to NASCAR and take the lead, and that's exactly what happened. We're going to see that bright smile from the young Ernie Francis Jr. as he now turns to John Fippin and gets the interview. Well done, Ernie.
Ernie Francis Jr., your second win on the season. You had to earn this one, my friend.
Yeah, I really had to work hard for it. You know, started 8th. Didn't have the first race we wanted. Had some contact out there and really put us on the back foot for the weekend. But yeah, car felt really awesome. The whole team with Future Star Racing and Wings and Wheels did a great job. Put a new setup on it for the second race. Mitch Davis, man, he knocked it out of the park. The car was on fire. We went from 8th to 1st. Still in shock, really awesome with that. And but it's not over yet. Still got qualifying and Trans Am coming up in like 30 minutes. So ready for that and ready for the next race tomorrow.
Jonathan, he's a busy guy and a two-time winner in Formula Regional Americas.